does the insurance, maintenance, taxes, all of that. And the landlord, for the most part, doesn't. Is that about correct?
Yep, that's correct. So really the biggest risk that you run with that, 'cause it sounds really good, the tenant pays the insurance, the taxes, the maintenance, and obviously the mortgage as well. They pay you that check every month, and then obviously you make your spread depending on what you paid for the mortgage versus what the tenant pays you. Really the biggest risk there is just, I'm sure you've seen commercial buildings where the the basically the people leave, and then you have a hard time finding the tenant, and that's probably the biggest challenge and the biggest risk that you would find with the triple net lease is that, let's say you do have a Dollar General in it, and they decide, hey, after 2026, when our lease is up, we're no longer going to be renting out your space. We're going to be moving down the street to a space that's cheaper with more square footage, and you can't match that price. Not to say that that would happen, but that's like the biggest risk that you run with it. But it's nice. I mean, you have what do you consider your corporate grade A tenants? So that's going to be like your Family Dollar, your AutoZone, your pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens, where like, I mean, if they can't pay rent, then there's something really wrong with their business. I mean, these are I would probably say multi-billion-dollar companies where they're more likely to pay you on time than if you're renting out a single family rental where maybe someone starts to fall behind. I don't think that would probably ever happen within the triple net lease space. Again, it might be different depending on, are you just renting out to like a local business or this multinational corporation? So there's definitely some risks involved, but doing your due diligence, and like you mentioned, that's why I really like that asset class, is just because they cover the insurance, the maintenance, and the taxes. But you just do run that risk of, if the tenant does move out, how easy is going to be able to find another tenant to move in.
Well, besides finding potential partners and investment opportunities by being a podcast guest, what are some more of the benefits? What are some of the reasons somebody would want to be a guest on a podcast?
Yeah, I would say a couple of different things. One is just the personal branding aspect of it, where you go on a podcast and people sort of look at yourself as like an authority, where it's like, oh, this person was featured on a podcast, he must know what he's talking about. Not to say that that's always to be true that everyone knows what they're talking about on a podcast, but that's a portion of it, is just building up that brand awareness. People be like, oh, I've heard this guy on this podcast. Let me go check out his website, or let me go check out his social media. So there's that personal branding aspect of it. There's the aspect of being able to drive more leads for your company or business. So in my industry, to give you an example, why our clients work with us is that they're more often than not looking to raise capital. And when they're looking to raise capital, what that basically means is they're looking to find people to invest in their deals. So we place them out there on these podcasts where they can hopefully explain their story, hopefully explain what they do, with the goal of people learning more about them and the goal of people investing with them. Sometimes it might be a coach selling their coaching service. Maybe it's another B2B business, or maybe not so much B2C. That's a little bit more difficult. Like, we worked with a guy a long time ago where he was more personal branding, and his aspect of it was he was selling this hot sauce on Amazon. I mean, he was doing crazy numbers, like tens of millions of dollars a year in revenue. And now, we don't work with him anymore, but that's going to be a hard product to sell if you're going out there on a podcast and you're selling this $8 bottle of hot sauce, where that's going to be more of your personal branding play. So it's personal branding. It goes back to the driving more leads if your company. And I say leads because it can be very hard to make a new customer or a sale right away from going on a podcast. I find that podcasts are a great sort of top of funnel strategy where people get to learn more about you. But the odds of someone listening to a podcast and being like, I'm ready to invest with this company right here, right now, is not too likely. So it's going to be more, okay, they visit our website now. Now, do we have a landing page built out, or do we have a lead magnet where it could be an ebook, or could they follow me on social media? And just those touch points where they get to learn about you over time. And then again, that's why I say it's more of a lead generation business. And then it's up to the rest of your company to really handle it. From there, you have the SEO aspect of it. A lot of people like where you get backlinks, where a lot of times you'll go on an interview and you'll get a link back to your site once the interview goes live. And this will be in the form of what you would consider show notes. So it's basically a recap of your episode. And long story short, the more backlinks that you get, the better Google's going to look at your website. The better Google looks at your website, the higher that you're going to rank. And obviously, the higher that you rank on Google, you're going to get more clicks to your website. So you could imagine if you're on the top of the first page when someone searches something on Google versus being buried on the fourth page. Obviously, you're going to get more traffic there as well. You have the social media aspect of it. I find that people like to take the interviews that they do, and you could take a 30, 45-minute hour interview and create anywhere from 5 to 10 social media clips from it there as well, which has been very nice. And then probably the last aspect of it that really comes to mind is just the networking play, where Aaron, you and I get to spend, say, 45 minutes to an hour today talking, and we get to learn about each other's businesses, what we do. And I find there's just that networking aspect that comes into play. I mean, being a host, being a guest, probably 90% of the people I talk to, nothing ever comes out of it. But you do get that 10%, okay, maybe they become a client of mine, or maybe I invest in the real estate deal based on the conversation that we have. So there is that networking play that comes into play as well. And I know that there's probably more reasons why, the benefits of being a guest, but those are really the ones that come top of mind when I think about it.